Google has spent more than a decade assembling one of the greatest collections of artificial intelligence researchers in the world. Now, just as the company says artificial general intelligence may be getting close, the structure that built Google DeepMind is changing. Demis Hassabis is stepping away from day-to-day management of Google DeepMind. Jeff Dean, one of the most important engineers in Google's history, is leaving. Several other researchers who helped create the technologies behind modern AI are leaving with him. And responsibility for Gemini is moving to a new operational leader whose job will be not only to push the scientific frontier, but to turn Google's enormous research advantage into products faster. This is not Google abandoning AI. It is almost the opposite. Google believes AI has become so important that one organization may no longer be able to optimize simultaneously for long-term AGI research, scientific breakthroughs, consumer products, cloud revenue, and the brutal speed of competition with OpenAI and Anthropic. The company is effectively separating two missions. Demis Hassabis will focus more heavily on the future of AGI and science. Koray Kavukcuoglu will take operational control of Google DeepMind and the Gemini machine. And that split could determine whether Google becomes the company that invents the future of AI or the company that actually commercializes it first. Hassabis is not leaving Google. He is moving into the newly created role of chief scientist of Alphabet while becoming chairman of Google DeepMind. He will continue advising the organization, working with CEO Sundar Pichai on AGI strategy, and spending more time with Isomorphic Labs, the AI drug discovery company spun out of DeepMind. Google describes this as a deliberate change because Hassabis believes AGI is approaching. In his internal message, Hassabis said he had spent his life working toward AGI and now believed it was close enough that he wanted more time to think about the consequences and long-term strategy rather than manage daily operations. That sounds philosophical, but inside Google, the change solves a very practical problem. Running Google DeepMind is no longer the same job it was when DeepMind was primarily an advanced research laboratory. Today, the organization must develop Gemini models, support the Gemini consumer app, work with Google Cloud, improve search, create developer tools, build robotic systems, develop cybersecurity models, and simultaneously conduct frontier research. One organization is being asked to behave like a university laboratory, a software company, an infrastructure provider, and a commercial product division at the same time. Those objectives do not always move at the same speed. Research rewards patience. Products reward deadlines. Scientific breakthroughs can take years. Competitors can release a new model next month. This tension has existed inside Google for a long time. DeepMind was founded in 2010 around the extremely ambitious idea of building general intelligence and then using it to solve scientific problems. Google acquired the company in 2014 for roughly $650 million. But DeepMind maintained a distinct research culture even after becoming part of one of the world's largest corporations. That culture produced extraordinary achievements. AlphaGo defeated one of the world's best. Go players! AlphaFold transformed protein structure prediction. Hassabis and DeepMind researcher John Jumper eventually received a Nobel Prize for work connected to AlphaFold. But Google has always faced another question. Can extraordinary science become extraordinary business quickly enough? Reuters previously reported that some people who worked with Hassabis believed he often prioritized profound scientific goals over shorter-term commercial opportunities. His supporters argued that this long-term approach was exactly what allowed DeepMind to produce breakthroughs other companies could not. For years, that debate was mostly internal. ChatGPT changed everything. When OpenAI launched ChatGPT, Google suddenly had a competitor attacking the interface through which millions of people access information. AI was no longer only a research project. It became a threat to search, a cloud computing opportunity, a developer platform, and potentially the next operating layer of the internet. Google responded by merging Google Brain and DeepMind in 2023. Hassabis became CEO of the combined Google DeepMind organization. Jeff Dean became its chief scientist. The objective was to combine Google's fragmented AI talent and accelerate Gemini. That restructuring worked in important ways. Gemini became competitive with the leading frontier models. Google integrated AI into Search, Workspace, Android, Cloud, and other products. According to Google, the Gemini app has now surpassed 950 million monthly users, while its Gemma models have exceeded 900 million downloads. Google therefore does not have an AI adoption problem. It has a speed problem. Reuters reported that the flagship version of Google's latest Gemini generation remained unreleased after an expected June launch, increasing concerns that Google could lose momentum against OpenAI and Anthropic. Hassabis says Google is making strong progress on Gemini 4. But in frontier AI, a delay of several months can matter. The industry can change completely during that time. A competitor launches a stronger coding model. Another cuts inference prices. A Chinese laboratory releases powerful open weights. Companies begin building applications around whichever model works best today. Developers do not necessarily wait for the company with the strongest research paper. They build on what is available. That is the environment Koray Kavukcuoglu is now being asked to manage. Kavukcuoglu has worked at DeepMind for roughly 13 years. He helped build its deep learning organization and worked on technologies including WaveNet and deep reinforcement learning. Before this restructuring, he was already Google DeepMind's Chief Technology Officer and Alphabet's Chief AI Architect. Now he becomes Senior Vice President of Google DeepMind and takes responsibility for daily operations. His responsibilities include Gemini model development, frontier AI research, the Gemini application, and developer teams. The choice appears to signal something important. Google wants tighter connections between research, engineering, products, and cloud. Reuters reported that Google Cloud leaders viewed Kavukcuoglu's appointment positively because he had already worked more closely with the commercial organization than Hassabis had. This does not mean Google suddenly wants DeepMind to stop doing science. It means research must increasingly travel a shorter distance before reaching customers. Imagine two companies building the same advanced engine. Company A creates an engine that is technically superior, but takes a year to design the vehicle around it. Company B builds a slightly weaker engine, but puts it inside thousands of cars immediately. In a scientific competition, Company A may win. In a platform competition, Company B may dominate the market. Google cannot afford to choose between those outcomes. It needs both. And the leadership split may be an attempt to create them simultaneously. Hassabis can think about AGI, science, long-term strategy, and Isomorphic Labs. Kavukcuoglu can turn Gemini into products. But this transition comes with another serious problem. Google is losing extraordinary talent. Jeff Dean is leaving after 27 years at the company. Dean helped build some of the infrastructure that made Google possible and later became one of its most important AI leaders. He is leaving with Sanjay Gemawat, another legendary Google engineer. Oriel Vinils and Kwakle are also departing. Together, they are launching a public benefit corporation called Discovery Loop focused on breakthroughs in machine learning, science, and engineering. Google is not completely cutting ties. Alphabet will become a founding investor, Google Cloud will provide computing infrastructure, and the companies intend to collaborate on research. But the departures still matter. These are not ordinary employees. Dean and Gemawat helped create foundational Google infrastructure. Vinils and La contributed to major advances in machine learning. And they are not the only senior AI researchers who have recently left. Noam Shazir, who helped lead Gemini development, moved to OpenAI in June. John Jumper, who shared the Nobel Prize with Hassabis, said he would join Anthropic. That creates an unusual situation. Google has become one of the most important training grounds for the entire AI industry. Its research helped produce transformers, large-scale distributed computing, reinforcement learning systems, foundational language model techniques, and many of the researchers now building competing companies. Google's greatest strength may also be a vulnerability. It has so much AI talent that rivals can build major businesses by hiring people who learned inside Google. OpenAI itself benefited enormously from ideas first developed by Google researchers. The transformer architecture that underlies modern large language models was introduced by Google researchers in 2017. Now the battle is no longer just over algorithms. It is over the people who know how to turn those algorithms into frontier systems. The result resembles professional sports. A team can have one of the strongest academies in the world, but if competitors constantly recruit its best players, producing talent is not enough. You must retain it. Google still has an enormous bench. That may be the company's biggest protection. Unlike a smaller AI startup, Google does not depend on only one famous researcher or one model. It designs its own TPU chips. It operates global data centers. It controls Google Cloud. It owns Android, Chrome, Search, YouTube, and Workspace. It has enormous amounts of data, distribution, and revenue. Pitch describes this as Google's full-stack advantage. Consider what that means. DeepMind develops a new Gemini model. Google can run it on its own TPUs. Google Cloud can sell access to developers. Search can expose the model to billions of users. Workspace can put it inside Gmail and Docs. Android can place it on phones. YouTube can use it for creators and recommendations. Gemini can become the consumer interface. Very few AI companies control that many layers simultaneously. OpenAI has extraordinary models and a huge consumer product, but it depends heavily on external infrastructure. Anthropic has strong models but even less consumer distribution. Meta has enormous distribution and open models, but a different business model. Google has almost every component. Its challenge is coordination. A company with 20 major assets can still lose to a company with 3 assets if the smaller company moves twice as fast. That may be the real purpose of this restructuring. Google is trying to reduce the organizational distance between invention and deployment. The timing is especially important because the AI race is entering a new stage. Early competition centered on benchmark scores. Then came multimodal AI. Then reasoning. Now companies are building agents that can operate computers, write software for hours, search the web, conduct research, and interact with the physical world. Google is developing Gemini robotics. It has launched cybersecurity-oriented models. It is integrating Gemini across its products. Hassabis believes AGI itself may be approaching. If that is even partly true, the stakes of execution become enormous. The company that develops a breakthrough but deploys it 6 months late could lose the platform built around that breakthrough. At the same time, moving too quickly creates safety risks. More autonomous models can access tools, execute code, and take actions in the real world. Google therefore has to accelerate commercial deployment without destroying the research culture that made DeepMind valuable in the first place. That is the contradiction behind the new structure. Google needs DeepMind to become more commercial. But it cannot allow DeepMind to become only commercial. Hassabis represents the long horizon. Kavukcuoglu represents execution. Google is betting that separating those responsibilities will allow each side to move faster. There is another dimension to Hassabis's new role. He will spend more time at Isomorphic Labs. Hassabis has repeatedly argued that improving human health should be one of AI's most important applications. Isomorphic uses AI to help discover drugs, building on scientific approaches developed through DeepMind and AlphaFold. This matters because AI companies are under increasing pressure to prove that enormous spending produces something beyond better chatbots. Billions of dollars are flowing into data centers. Power consumption is rising. Technology companies are competing for chips, memory, and researchers. Eventually, the industry must demonstrate economic and scientific value large enough to justify that infrastructure. Drug discovery is one possible answer. If AI meaningfully reduces the time and cost required to create medicines, the impact could dwarf revenue from chatbot subscriptions. Hassabis is effectively shifting toward that larger question. What happens after the model becomes extremely intelligent? Google's new structure therefore creates 2 races inside the same company. Koray Kavukcuoglu must win the immediate AI platform war. He needs competitive Gemini releases, strong developer adoption, effective integration with Google products, and commercial growth. Demis Hassabis is focusing on the longer race. AGI, science, drug discovery, and the societal consequences of machines approaching human-level general intelligence. Both races matter, but history shows that technological leadership does not automatically produce commercial leadership. Xerox PARC invented major parts of modern personal computing, but did not dominate the PC era. Bell Labs produced extraordinary science but did not become the central technology platform of the internet age. Google itself published the transformer research that helped create today's generative AI revolution. Yet OpenAI turned that underlying idea into ChatGPT and changed the industry before Google did. Google does not want that story to happen again. It has the models. It has the chips. It has the cloud. It has billions of users. And it still has one of the deepest AI research organizations in existence. The question is whether it can convert all of those advantages into speed. Google's leadership overhaul is therefore more than an executive reshuffle. It is an experiment in how to run an AI company when research has become both a scientific mission and a global product war. Demis Hassabis is moving closer to the future he has spent his career trying to build. Koray Kavukcuoglu is being handed the machine that must turn that future into products. And if Google is right that AGI is getting close, the timing of that handoff may matter far more than any ordinary corporate reorganization.